That's good too. Yeah.
I'd like to see us go 2 or 3 people.
Well, it would sure help with committee.
Is there ever next month? Nothing. Both ways.
No public hearing. You'll still have a business meeting. That's the first time I can remember we've had where it's just been one or the other before. First time for both.
Okay. I will call the meeting of the Share County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. The meeting will begin with a public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or the representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the hearing, we'll conduct our monthly business meeting, at which time we'll vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and the town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of the decision can sign the sheet on the table by the north doors. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of the proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for the hearing of each application is, after the application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will be asked to present the application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the committee's field observations and staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as any slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustments. Information and applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To my left is Robert Wadle, Larry Crawford, and Mike Likeness, and I'm Joe Piaski, and to my right is Terry Dopp-Hockstedt, Zoning Administrator. Okay. First application we have would be the Share County Sheriff's Department with Share County landowner has made application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-236 parent B parent 20 and 58-454 parent 33 of the Waushara County zoning code to place a 420-foot guide wireless communication tower with construction of a 12 by 24 equipment building in the AG General Agricultural Zone 10-acre minimum zone. Location of approximately 20-acre parcel of land lying east of 17th Drive, being part of the west one-half of the northeast one-quarter of the southwest one-quarter, section 14, town of Wautoma, and 3830 17th Drive. The applicant here, you want to come up and tell us, state your name and tell us what.
I'm Dave Peterson. I'm representing Waushara County on this application. And I guess before we get started, it is a communication project most certainly for the Sheriff's Department, but it also benefits the EMS, all the local fire departments, and Public Works. So the question is, why do we have to upgrade our communication system? Well, for one thing, the FCC has mandated that we go to narrowbanding, which is going to have an impact on our ability to communicate via radio. And on top of that, we already have some issues that we need to address. And the major issue is that we already have locations within the county which are dead spots or where there is no radio reception. And if you will look at map 3 that was provided to you in your packet, this is probably indicating one of the most crucial problems that we have. The three black squares on there indicate where our current towers are. And the darkened part is where we currently have coverage for a fireman wearing a pager on his hip. The white areas are where there would be no coverage, where there is no coverage currently for a fireman with a pager on his hip. And I'm sure that you're all aware of that we rely solely on volunteer firemen, and the way that we communicate with them when we need them to come to your place or mine for a fire is through the paging system. Be that as may, you know, this type of coverage might be acceptable for a cell phone company who's only interested in getting 75% of the business. It might be, you know, okay for a business that's trying to stay in contact with their workers, or any other non-emergency entity. When public safety is involved, we need to strive for 100% coverage, because if the firemen don't come and it's somebody else's fire, I guess, you know, that maybe isn't a big deal. When the fireman can't be contacted because it's my house, that becomes a bigger deal. When you have a family member that's in need of emergency care, we don't want the ambulance there in 10 minutes, we want it 5 minutes ago. So that's another reason why we're trying to improve our coverage. If there's something going on in a school, and inside buildings just compounds our problem for radio communications. And I'm sure that everybody who has a child in school wants to ensure that emergency services, whether it be police, fire, or EMS, are available to respond to the calls in those schools. And in my case, if I have an officer down and in need of assistance, he or she might only have one opportunity to tell me where they are and what the problem is before something even worse happens. The communications project we are proposing addresses many of these issues. Now, if you look at the other map that you have, included in your packet, we're only here tonight to talk about 2 towers, but this map has 6 black squares on it, indicating when our project is complete, where all of our towers would be. And if we're able to get on these 6 towers, you can see that the black or shaded area is quite a bit more than on the other one, and we have a lot fewer white spaces. This map is for, again, a fireman with a pager on the hip, which is probably, you know, the most difficult one to cover, because they may be in buildings, maybe out in the woods, maybe in a lot of different places. So this indicates that we would have 95% coverage minimum for that. In addition, building towers is a huge expense. There's no getting around it. We have been able to come up and we're working on an agreement with Bug Tussle to share space on different towers, so we won't have any long-term maintenance issues. We'll just share in each other's towers. The state of Wisconsin has also approved the site for one of the towers that we're talking about tonight, which is the Watoma Tower. We're proposing to put the Watoma Tower, which will be our main tower, on the current county property where the waste transfer site is on 17th, just off of 22. We had originally hoped to stay on the tower that we were on Double M at the old dump, but that did not become, it's not feasible because of the amount of equipment that we have to hang on the tower and the limited amount of space that's available on that tower. And if you go by there, you might have to stop. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of antennas and dishes on that tower. So that was not an alternative. The nice part about the county site is that there is some unused space on that. When they put the waste transfer site there, they put it pretty much to the south, so we'll be able to we want to locate our tower on the northern part of that property. And in doing this, we really made a commitment to go out and be good neighbors, if you will. And so I contacted all of the adjoining landowners to tell them what we were going to do, gave them notice of this meeting, told them, showed them a diagram of what we were going to build, gave them information on what kind of tower it was, and enlisted their support. And I believe on the Watoma site, we have one letter that I know of, two letters I know of in support of that, that being from Therese and Jeff Kozabuski and the town of Watoma. In talking with the other two landowners that I spoke with personally, they really didn't have any objections to it. After that, I did get information that there was another party that was a little bit farther to the north and to the west of where we're proposing to build this tower, and he lives in someplace in the southern part of the state, Cedarburg. I was able to get his phone number, and I called him to discuss what his issues were. His concern was emissions, and I asked him what he meant by that, and he said that he had a friend, and somebody built a tower, and the guy's cattle quit giving milk. To me, it sounded a lot like stray voltage, although when I mentioned stray voltage to him, he didn't seem to know what that was. And then he was concerned about TV and radio reception if he were to ever build on this, because he's not building on it. And in fact, he told me that he now is trying to, in his words, dump the property. I didn't know what the answer to those questions were, and so I contacted people from Motorola, people from another communications company, and they assured me that, number one, there would be no stray voltage, and that there was no harmful emissions, it's radio traffic, and that there would be absolutely no way that TV and radio reception would be impacted. Also, I'm a landowner just to the north of that, and I guess I would publicly say that I don't have any objections to it. I believe that I was able to supply some larger maps of the site plan. We're proposing that the entire compound will be fenced. There will be 2 shelters to house equipment on the property. One will be for us, one will be for the state of Wisconsin, and those shelters will be within the fenced area. There will be a generator at this site because many times in an emergency situation, we need to be on the air, we need to be able to communicate, and so there will be a generator on that site also. We originally had a slightly different location for this tower, but after looking at that plan, we decided that it was worth the time and the extra money to see if we couldn't move it just slightly, and so we moved it south and east, and that way it would impact one less property owner, and it would be a little bit farther off the road. So, I'm hoping that you will grant the conditional use to build the tower.
Okay, we have some committee questions for you.
Yeah, what sort of traffic do you anticipate?
Traffic in and out of that tower after it's constructed, very minimal. And it would be probably a squad car going up and checking on something, or it would be Motorola service, but it's designed to run pretty much on its own. Be no heavy traffic on it.
You are sure there are lot lines?
I believe that the property has been surveyed, yes.
The tower will not meet setbacks, but you have applied for a variance, correct?
That is correct.
Sheriff County already owns the property.
Correct.
Will there be a new driveway into the tower?
Yes, there will. The driveway will be approximately halfway between the existing road into the solid waste transfer site and the intersection of 17th and Bighorn, which is on the north end of the property.
Will the tower interfere with the collection site, or is it completely separate from the facility?
The tower and the anchor locations are outside of the fenced area for the transfer site.
What will be fenced?
The compound itself where the tower and the shelters and generator will be fenced, and then the location where the anchors are will be fenced just around the anchors.
Will the tower be painted?
Yes.
What sort of safety lights will be?
It'll have red light at night and a white strobe in the daytime. I always get those mixed up.
Could you describe why this location was picked?
Well, you know, we're limited to, you know, you have to, and that's why I tried to explain and show you the map of all 6 towers. Number one, this is pretty much in the center of the county. And when you try to, it'll be a simulcast system, so each tower has to be able to talk to each other. And so that limits you to where you can have them. Also, there is a ridge of high ground, if you will, that runs from just to the east of where this site is to just to the west of where Double M towers are at. So it's a high piece of ground. It's located in such a way that we have good communications between the other towers.
You could describe the coverage that is anticipated with the main tower at this location?
The radio coverage?
Yeah.
The worst case scenario will be 95% coverage to a fireman with a pager on his hip.
Our code requires that you must prove that it is not feasible to build on any other existing tower in the area. Have you studied other existing sites, and is there space available on other towers?
The only other place that we could have been would have been on the tower that we're already on, which is that Charter cable tower. And we wanted to stay there because that, again, is within the area which would suit our needs. And it's at a height we would need, but there's not enough room for the equipment. We have to have additional equipment because in the simulcast system, this will be our main location, and then we have to be able to send signal out to the other 5 towers.
Our zoning code also requires that you must agree to lease any other additional space available to other companies at a fair market rate. Does the county have a co-location policy regarding sharing tower space, and will the tower be able to support users' hardware?
We're working on a cohabitation, a co-location agreement with another company, Bug Tussle, because we want to be on 3 of their towers. They want to be on ours. We'll have a co-location agreement with the state of Wisconsin, and we certainly would welcome any additional revenue that we could gain by renting that, but we have to balance that between interference with our emergency radio communications, and also as technology change, we don't want to sell all the space in case we might need some more space. But yes, there should be some space left on this tower. Might not be at the 400-foot level, but a little bit farther down there probably would be some.
Are there other users interested at this time?
None that I'm aware of, and we have, as you may know, we have a tower over in Coloma, and we've put out feelers on that, and so far have not gotten anything but a couple nibbles. We haven't sold any space.
Are you familiar with all other requirements, including FAA, FCC, and state building codes?
I am not personally familiar with them, but we have Edge is helping us out where we are lacking. They're helping us out. We have a limited contract with them, and they are familiar with that, and I would have to trust their judgment.
Yes, that's all I have to ask.
Okay, that's all we need for you right now. Any correspondence?
Yes, we did receive 4 letters on this application. The first is from the town of Watoma. It's addressed to me. Application for variance by Waushara County Sheriff's Department to place a 420-foot wireless communications tower came before the town of Watoma Board at the February 1st meeting. Supervisor Alan Stea made motion to support this application. Motion was seconded by Supervisor Fred Gellerup, and motion passed. Chairman Jeff Nett abstained from voting as he works for the Sheriff's Department. And thank you, signed by Mary Charette, Town of Watoma Clerk. We also received one from Reby Spring. It actually applies to both tower locations. I'm only going to read the part for Watoma. It's addressed to the Waushara County Planning and Zoning, and it's regarding the Sheriff's Department Communication Tower. Reby Spring Service and the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association support the replacement of guide towers with self-supporting towers. Sorry, that's for Plainfield. The 420-foot guide tower is a tall hazard for this county, and the guy wire array is like a fishnet that covers a lot of area. We do fly the Christmas tree field to the southeast once a year. Therefore, on this tower, we request dual lighting, which is the flashing red at night and the high-intensity daylight strobe, aviation orange and white paint on the tower, and 20-foot orange balls on the outer guy wires per FAA Advisory Circular AC 70/7460-1J. A few gallons of paint, a light, and some plastic balls is a small monetary cost when compared to the loss of life that one aircraft tower strike would cost society. And that's signed sincerely, Jeffrey Reby. Then we have one addressed to Ruth Zuski, Corporation Counsel. Dear Ruth, as I discussed with you on the phone today, I am in favor of the communication improvement plan. However, I'm reluctant to granting an easement to my property. I am willing to consider an agreement that states that Waushara County may retrieve its property should the tower collapse onto my property, providing they notify us in advance. The users of the tower may want to show a good faith effort in offering free services to those property owners that are willing to grant this access. This is just a thought that would possibly convince some more reluctant participants. I realize this was not discussed in our conversation, but more of a thought on my part. That's signed sincerely, Jeff Kesabuski, State Road 22, Watoma. And lastly is a letter to the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee regarding the notice of public hearing. Attention, Mark Kirschner, Chairman. Sir, I'm responding to your notice of the public hearing on February 17th, 2011. I will not be able to attend this hearing, but I have a few concerns not addressed in your notice. This proposed tower is to be located in a rural area just outside the city limits of Watoma. Location of parcel of land lying east of 17th Drive, being part of the west one half of the northeast one quarter of the southwest one quarter, Section 14, Town of Watoma, N 3830 17th Drive. Was there any consideration of tower being erected in an area of homes located within a half mile or less of an existing residential area? My concern is what emissions will this tower emit? How safe will this be to the environment? My health is not the best for my age. Will I be subject to more hazards created by irresponsible people who are out to make a buck at the expense of innocent taxpayers? What is this going to do to land values? My property is located near this area. I will be forced to sell it at a loss rather than be subject to too many unknowns. I phoned Mrs. Putsky on February 6th, who lives across the road from my land. She was unaware of the tower being built when I called. Why wasn't she informed? Gentlemen, there are just too many ifs to feel safe at what is being done. My wish is that this application to build this tower is scrapped and find a different place to build it. And that's signed Gerald W. Elward of Cedarburg, Wisconsin.
Spell that, please.
E-L-W-A-R-D. And that's all the correspondence we have.
Anyone registered? and
No
speaking
one's
please?
registered.
Opposed?
Nope.
Any more information? Only nobody? Next would be staff comments.
For the record, the committee has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all other pertinent data for this and other applications that they will be considering tonight. We did receive the larger site plans, but it was this afternoon, and I did not copy them and give them to the committee. They received the smaller ones in their packet, just to clarify that. At this time, I'd like to explain a little bit about conditional use permits. All of our zones have uses that are permitted outright. In most zones, you can build a home, you can just do that. And it also has uses that may be permitted provided certain conditions are met. That's where the term conditional use comes from. So that's what we're looking at here, a use that may be permitted provided that certain parameters can be complied with so the use remains in keeping with the surrounding area and uses. In some counties, these permits are called special exception permits. It's the applicant's responsibility to provide this information to us and show the committee that it is still in keeping with the area that it's proposed for. And that the conditions placed on it will ensure that it will still be a good neighbor to the surrounding landowners. I think everyone would agree that towers for communication purposes have become a necessity and that providing the best communications we can to emergency service workers is very important. And this committee must decide where those towers should be located to accomplish these goals while minimizing the impacts that they have. I should also mention that Waushara County normally has a bonding policy for removal of towers when they are no longer viable. But since this is the county and we've looked at this before, the Sheriff's Department would be waived from this requirement because they are part of the county government. When the committee visited the property, and they actually physically went out and looked at the property, they noted that it is adjacent to the collection site. The site is fairly heavily wooded. The new driveway location appears to be quite safe with good visibility, and that the facility itself will be fenced. That's all the comments I have.
The applicant will have a chance for rebuttal if they choose.
Concerning the gentleman that had the concerns, I guess I live up in that area, so I travel those roads around that area quite a bit. And I would just note that to find another location on that ridge of high ground from that site over to Double M would be nigh on to impossible, because whether you take Highway 22 from there and go into town, there's a Reed subdivision, there's multiple homes along that highway. If you go around on the north side on Bighorn, there's between Bighorn and Double M, there's 5 or 6 homes. Once you get on Double M, where the roads are plowed better, there's even more homes. And so I think, there's certainly, it's not a subdivision, but to get where it's strictly kind of hard to hide a 400-foot tower. Also, I guess I would take exception to being classified as irresponsible. I believe that Waushara County Sheriff's Department, Waushara County EMS, Waushara County Fire Departments, and the Public Works Departments are very responsible. They're in business, I guess, if you will, to serve people and to protect people, and I think that we take that responsibility very seriously, and I would hate to think that we're classified as being irresponsible. I guess the only other thing, and I don't know, I get this variance and conditional use mixed up, but there is also the state of Wisconsin was, because they approved this site, was going to financially support us putting this tower up. So I guess that's all I have.
Okay, we'll go on to our next conditional use. Number 2 is Waushara County Sheriff's Department, Wautoma, Wisconsin. Tom Hedgeland, owner, has made application for conditional use in accordance with Section 58-236, Parent B, Parent 20, and 58-454, Parent 33 of the Waushara County Zoning Code to place a 270-foot self-supporting wireless communication tower with construction of a 12 by 16 equipment building. The existing 202-foot guide tower will be removed in the AG General Agricultural Zone within the shoreland area. The location is approximately 2.066 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map number 2131, being part of the Southwest 1 Quarter of the Southwest 1 Quarter, Section 25, Town of Plainfield and 6th Avenue. The applicant is there, so we'll go on.
I'm Dave Peterson, representing the Sheriff's Department, the EMS, the Fire and Public Works, And if you want to refer to those maps, they all apply to this one too, so I think we can probably skip over that. This will be one of our satellite sites, if you will. But again, it's more than one or two towers. It's about hooking all 6 of these towers together in a simulcast system. This site was chosen for a couple reasons. I actually was working part-time for Mr. Hedgeland when he constructed that tower, and I probably have worked for a lot of different people in my lifetime, and I have never worked for a man who was so meticulous and did so much research on where to build a tower for his needs as Tom did at that time. And he looked at, actually looked at a piece of property over on Double M. And after much searching, he found this piece of property on 6th, which is a dead-end road south of Archer in the town of Plainfield. Again, I went out with the same intention, was to contact all of the landowners that were affected by the setback. I found nobody that was opposed to putting a tower there. There currently is a tower there. Our proposal with Mr. Hedgeland is to erect a self-supporting tower. Currently there's a guided tower up there. Ours will be a little bit taller than his, and then the plan is once that's erected, we will move his equipment over onto the new tower, at which time we will tear down the existing tower and we'll tear down the existing shelter that he has. There will be one shelter on the site, which will be shared by him and us. We'll have about 3/4 of it. He'll have 1/4 of it. He has some other businesses that he has sold space to. We're going to permit him to keep those. And there will be a generator on this site also, because once again, when power's out, that's sometimes when we're the busiest. In talking to Reby, he was actually pleased that we were going to do this because he didn't like the guided tower that was there. His only concern was it going to be galvanized or painted? I reassured him it was going to be painted. His other concern was that it was lit, and it will be lit, just like the other one. That's about it, I guess. I guess, again, it's a good location. It's going to serve one of the places we currently have problems with is actually in the Tri-County School building itself. We don't have portable coverage for our radios in there, much less pagers, which is more difficult. And I think at times there might be situations in a school where one officer might need the help of another. There's difficulty with radio transmissions in the Plainfield Fire Department building and the Hancock Fire Department building. This location will be approximately halfway between the two, so I think it will really serve the west end well. And again, if you go back to look at that map with the 6 towers on it, I think you'll see how the coverage in that area has been increased dramatically. Our most difficult spot over there was down in the Coloma area. We rectified that by moving from a small tower in Hancock, which was nothing much more than something you'd put a TV antenna on, when we were able to purchase that property and tower in Coloma. That greatly enhanced the Coloma, but because of the distance it is away from Plainfield, especially when you go narrowbanding, it's not going to help Plainfield at all. So this should address that situation. Again, it's a high piece of property out there in the Plainfield Sands, was noted for flat and level. So again, nobody had any objections to it.
Okay, we have some committee questions for you.
Few questions for the record. What sort of traffic is anticipated at this site?
That's a dead-end road. So I don't know if there's a lot, there's probably about 4 or 5 houses on there currently. Traffic from us will be minimal once we get it constructed. It would be a service van or a squad car going up there to check. Designed to be pretty maintenance-free. Don't have to go and check on them a lot because there will be some security measures, some warnings that we would know when something failed, and then we would go out rather than going out every day to check. So it'd be very minimal on our part.
You're sure of the lot lines at this property?
That has been surveyed also. We have a little bit of disagreement between us and the one neighbor. They don't think we're right, and they think they're right, but I'll put my money on our survey, I guess.
The tower will not meet zoning setbacks, but you've applied for a variance, is that correct?
That's correct.
Does the county plan to purchase this property if all approvals are obtained?
Yes, we are working on an agreement with Mr. Hedgeland, so the property would be owned by the county.
What will be fenced?
The compound where the tower is located and the shelter and the generator will be fenced. There won't be any guide wires, so everything that's on that property will be within the fenced area.
Will there be any changes to the driveway?
Yes, because to be honest with you, I don't know if we could find a driveway. I think they're just driving through the ditch and up on the grass, so we will construct a driveway, and there's no fire number there, so we'd have to put a fire number up at the driveway location.
And you mentioned before the tower is going to be painted?
Yes.
And what sort of a lighting is being proposed again? What was the
It's
lighting?
a red light at night and a white strobe in the daytime.
That was a trick question.
I get it wrong all the time.
There is an existing tower there that will be removed, and the new tower will be placed at the same location. That's what
Well,
you
it's
said.
not exactly the same, but it's as close as we possibly can get it.
Approximately, okay.
Yeah.
How much taller is the tower than the one that is there now?
The existing tower is 202 feet. That's measured from ground level to the top of the tallest antenna, and ours will be 270 feet.
Could you describe why this particular location was picked?
Well, it costs money to do studies to see where a good location are. We thought that possibly this was a good location because it was already being used. It has a suitable elevation, and it is a good distance away from the Coloma Tower and the Watoma Tower where they can still communicate, and we can get the most coverage for the west end of the county.
Our code requires that you must prove that it is not feasible to build on any other existing tower in the area. Have you studied other existing sites, and is there space available on these towers?
We were unable to find any space available on a suitable tower because we need some height out there.
Our zoning code also requires that you must agree to lease any additional space available to other companies at a fair market value, or fair market rate, rather. Does the county have a co-location policy regarding sharing tower space, and will the tower be able to support other users' hardware?
This one would be a little bit more difficult than the other one because it's not quite as tall. We're already going to have a co-location agreement with Mr. Hedgeland, and we'll have a co-location agreement with Bug Tussle. We want to keep enough space for our future needs, but certainly if there was an opportunity to collect some rent money, we would be more than happy to oblige somebody.
Are you familiar with all other requirements, including the FAA, FCC, and state building codes?
We use the same Edge consulting firm, and we had a chat with them on a conference call, and they went through a list of things, and we go like, yeah, we can handle that. No, we don't know what they're talking about. So, again, to try to keep the costs down, we're going to do as much as we feel we're capable of and still come up with a quality product.
That's all.
Any other questions from anybody else? Okay, next, we'll go to correspondence.
Okay, we received 2 letters tonight. So I will read those first. They're actually the same letter, and they're signed by two parties, so I only have to read it once. And it says, "I, the undersigned landowner, within the required setback of Waushara County's proposed telecommunications tower, have been advised of the project and have no objection to either the conditional use request or variance request. In addition, I am in agreement with the concept of providing Waushara County with an easement over my property for the purposes of meeting the setback. I understand that the easement will be a formal legal document that will be filed with the Register of Deeds. I further understand that by entering into an agreement with the county will obtain certain rights with respect to my property, which will allow it meet the setback requirements for placement of a telecommunications tower." And those are signed by Dennis Grundman, representative of Dennis Grundman Trust, and William and Mary Jo Patterson. We did receive that letter that I only read half of before from Reby Sprang, Waushara County Planning and Zoning. Reby Sprang Service and the Wisconsin Agricultural Aviation Association support the replacement of guide towers with self-supporting towers. Guy wires are impossible to see and judge distance. The self-supporting tower is a more substantial structure and easier to see and to judge distance. We do request the 270-foot self-supporting tower be dual-lighted, which is flashing red at night, and high-intensity daylight strobe. And that's signed by Jeff Reby of Reby Sprang Service. And that's all the correspondence we have.
Anyone registered to speak?
No one registered to speak in favor or in opposition.
Staff comments.
This application's just like the other one, you know, it's a conditional use permit, and it needs to be granted in order to build the new tower. I should probably point out that the existing tower did not go through the public hearing process when it was built, because we thought it was just for Mr. Hedgeland's use, which may not be true anymore, but private towers don't have to go through the conditional use process. It's when you're sharing all the space that you do need to go through it. Again, the bonding policy that we have would not apply in this case because the Sheriff's Department is part of the county. When the committee visited the site, they noted that the existing driveway will need to be improved or maybe replaced, and that this will replace an existing tower in relatively the same location. This is on a little-used dead-end road, and there's not an address number here now, so one will be needed. That's it.
The applicant has a chance for rebuttal if you choose.
I just want to make one clarification, because I think I said that I paid a visit to every one of the landowners that had property within that setback area. I did not go to Big Sky, Montana, but I did send a letter out to them, and we got correspondence back from them.
Did you want to testify about this application? 'Cause yeah, you should sign a slip.
If you want to say something, you just need to sign a sheet. Yeah, then you can, if you can talk, and then she's going to give us a sheet, right? Sure.
Yeah, except that we're hearing testimony on the Plainfield Tower right now, and, okay. You will have a chance to speak at the variance, and that would be about the setbacks, not the actual placement of the tower. So if you wanted to sign one of those and stay for that portion, you could.
Okay, then our next thing is the text amendment. So you want to go through that?
Yeah, I think we have to. We proposed some text amendments for all of our codes. There was a summary in the newspaper, and I can explain the process a little bit and what the next steps would be. Every year as we use the codes, and actually we get some suggestions from agencies that we work with, such as DNR or Commerce, as far as the plumbing or utilities code goes. We note items that may need tweaking, or we need to amend something, you know, and sometimes there's just something not quite right in there, so we need to correct it. So in the winter, we look all these over, we come up with some suggested text amendments, and that's what you're looking at tonight. I have not received any correspondence from anybody. I have given them to DNR and Commerce and other agencies, and they just said they all looked fine in emails. It was a fairly informal review. So all the comments have been favorable so far. There are 3 code chapters that need to be reviewed at this public hearing, and those are the amendments to the floodplain, utilities, and zoning code. There's going to be a package that's going to go to county board, just so you're familiar with this. And the Louis Committee has already approved the changes that we've looked at for the manure storage code. And then you're going to look at some subdivision codes later, but those do not have to go to public hearing. It's the floodplain, utilities, and zoning codes that do. The changes are not very sweeping or contain a lot of new material. They're just some tweaking and cleanup, as I had mentioned. If these amendments are approved tonight by the committee, they will go to the county board for adoption at their upcoming regular business meeting in March. And they only become effective after the county board adopts them or approves of them. You guys all looked at them in January. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Any of the suggestions you had in January have been incorporated into the final draft. And that would be all I have.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. This time we'll close our portion of the meeting and go to the next room down the hallway behind us to do our voting on the applications and Board of Adjustments. So take over.
You're next. Yep, you're in the, all those guys waiting patiently behind me are the Board of Adjustments, and they're going to hear the variances. Nope, you're going to stay right here.
The other end cut. I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Board of Adjustments to order. The meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Please remember to keep your comments brief and relative to the matter at hand. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who is not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator. The committee has looked at all of the properties, and a record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct their monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applicants are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by the administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information on the appeals is available from the clerk of the court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of the 30-day period. I will now introduce the committee. Larry Tim is on my far left, George Wilson, Fred Gallerup, I'm Jim Warwick. Roger Wagner is excused tonight, and
I'm Terry Dopp-Pockstadt.
there you go. The first variance we will consider is Ira and Karen Giese, Watoma, Wisconsin, have made application for a variance in accordance with section 58-452,
paren C, paren 2 of the Waushara County zoning code to construct a 16 by 22 one-story addition to the existing single-family dwelling. Existing deck on the building is 14 by 20 foot. Coming to within 16 feet of the westerly side lot line, 20-foot setback is required in an AG general agricultural zone within the shoreland area. The location is on approximately 1.411 acre parcel of land known as Lot 2 of Certified Survey Map number 516, being part of the southeast one quarter of the northwest one quarter, Section 32, Town 19 North, Range 10 East, Town of Wautoma. The road address is W9175, County Road C. Is the applicant ready?
Terry, do they all have a copy of the site plan?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
they do.
If you look at a copy of the site plan, you will see that the lot lines go, as far as I can tell, directly north and south. Highway C runs northwest and southeast, and it runs at a very sharp angle to the lot lines. There are 4 homes along that side of Highway C, 2 homes on the other side. All of them are at right angles to County Highway C, as you would expect them to be. If they were lined up with the lot line, they would look pretty out of character, I think. So anyway, all homes are lined up perpendicular to County C. Or I guess, yes, either parallel to Highway C, I should say. The problem comes in at the southwest corner of the proposed, the current deck and the proposed sunroom. We had to apply for a variance 21 years ago when we built the deck, and we applied for a variance at that time, asking to come within 15 feet of the lot line. As was mentioned, this is zoned ag, and therefore our setback requirement is 20 feet. Really, we are in a residential type of situation with all of the homes in that area on either a quarter, 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 acre lots. If we were zoned residential, the setback would be 15 feet, and that may have been part of what the thought process was when we were granted the variance 21 years ago. And at that time, we'd asked to come within 15 feet of the lot line. Tonight, we are asking to stay further away from the lot line. We're asking for a variance to allow us to come within 16 feet of the lot line. You were out and observed the deck. The proposed sunroom would be about 3 inches different from the current deck. And as you were able to see, it's in the middle of the lot. It's not like it's right close to someone else's house. Each one of the neighbors within 300 feet that is living there has signed something, and I'm not sure if you have that in your packet or not, but each one of them has signed that we support the request to construct a sunroom to replace the deck in the southwest corner of the house. We understand that this sunroom may come to within 16 feet of the west lot line and will require a variance. We are in support of the issuance of that variance. We have also tried to minimize the problem, actually to maximize the distance that we would be from the lot line by going out 12 feet from the house and then going at a 45-degree angle. And by doing this, we have got it to the point where it's within, as I say, 3 inches of the existing deck. I believe that the town board has also sent a letter of support, and I think that's all that I have. If you have any questions.
Yes, so for the record, has there been a recent survey?
The property was surveyed prior to building the home there. So it has not been a recent survey, but all of those have been surveyed.
Where all your corners are?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to the neighbors about your project?
We've talked to each one of the neighbors, and they have signed off saying that they are in support of the project.
Have you considered any other options?
Yes, we have, and we could build it. We probably will build a sunroom because my wife wants one. However, by being able to build it where we have proposed, it would look like it was actually meant to be because we could line it up with the existing peak of the house. If we were to move it over, it would look like it was out of place, and we are also limited as to how far we can go on the other side because of the existing septic tank.
How are you going to deal with erosion and stormwater runoff?
There should be very minimal erosion, and we will be putting gutters on the house to take care of that.
What type of foundation will this be?
This will be a full basement.
How much filling and grading will be required?
There will really be no filling required whatsoever because the basement will be approximately 4 feet into the ground and 4 feet above ground, which is the same as the current house.
That'll be pretty close to your septic tank. How far is it from?
It needs to be 5 feet, and with this proposal, it would be about 6.5 feet.
Will the addition increase your square footage more than 25% of the existing home?
No, it will not.
Could you describe the hardships you have if you're not granted this variance?
Well, the hardship is brought about by the angle of the lot line to Highway C, and it would not allow us to build a home that is in, or build the addition that would be aesthetically pleasing to either us or the neighbors.
Do you know what permits are required before you start your project?
I have taken it just one step at a time, and once I get past this, I will be in at the zoning office probably tomorrow to find out what is all required.
If it was approved, how soon would you start?
We would start as soon as the snow is gone and we can begin excavating, so sometime probably in April, I would expect.
Any questions? No questions. Do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we do, and I do not have a copy of the one with the neighbors.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to give that, and I can read their names in?
Sure. They're not printed beneath, so if you tell, let me know.
Okay. And you read the first part, so it's James and Mary Fritz of W9163 County Road C. Next one, I don't know. He's married to her, though.
That would be Daryl and Carolyn Deischer.
And do you know how to spell that last name? No. I don't either. Maybe.
Is it on that map?
Might be.
There.
Yep, there you go.
It's on that map.
Okay. Brent and Elizabeth Corning, Mike and Judy Nigber, and Clifford and Dolores Blisky. Oh, you had it? How'd you have it and I didn't?
Well, somebody gave it to me, I don't know, maybe.
That's not
That one
supposed to
too's got
happen.
the names on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then there was one more letter, as he had mentioned, from the town of Wautoma. And it's addressed to me. Dear Terry, at the February 1st town board meeting, the town of Wautoma handled a request by Ira Giese. He is requesting to replace an outdoor deck with a sunroom. The present deck was placed after he received a variance in 1990. He is requesting to build a sunroom with a smaller footprint than the deck. Ira has contacted his neighbors and included a copy of a petition signed by those neighbors. These people are not opposed to this request. With the information provided, the town of Wautoma is in support of this request. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you, signed by Jeffrey Elnett, Town Chair. And that's all the correspondence we have.
Anybody registered to speak?
No one registered to speak in favor or in opposition.
Do you have any staff comments?
We always have staff comments. For the record, the board has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this and all the other applications that will be considered tonight. They have also visited all of the properties and viewed the proposals and their locations on site. This time, I'd like to explain a little bit about variances, and especially because we might get confused with the conditional use permit. Variances ask for a relaxation of a dimensional standard in the code. The decision to grant a variance must be backed by substantive reasons, which include a necessary hardship as being caused by the code requirement. There are unique limitations on the property that prevent the landowner from meeting the required dimensional standard. And finally, if the variance is granted, no harm can be done to the public interest or the zoning code. Again, it's the applicant's responsibility to present their case and provide the burden of proof as to why the variance should be granted. So conditional uses look at whether it should be there at all, and variances look at where it should be placed on the property and should it meet the setbacks. It's kind of it in a nutshell. The personal situation of the applicant, financial hardship, or nearby violations are not to be considered as valid reasons to grant a variance. When the board visited the site, they noted the new construction will go no closer to the side lot line than the existing deck. The addition replaces an existing deck, and the septic tank limits moving the addition to the east. A previous variance was granted in 1990 that reduced the setback to 15 feet, and that is the same that would be required in a residential zone. And that's it.
The applicant can have a rebuttal if he wants one. Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Terry.
Okay.
Is the whole building in compliance? I notice it's 10 feet from the lot line in the corner.
And detached accessory buildings only have to be 7.5 feet.
Okay, our next variance is Waushara County Sheriff's Department, Watoma, Wisconsin. Waushara County landowner has made application for a variance in accordance with sections 58-236, paren B, paren 20, paren E of the Waushara County zoning code to replace a 420-foot guide wireless communication tower coming to within 352 feet of the northerly and 244 of the easterly side lot lines. The required setback is no less than 1.1 times the total height of the tower. In this case, the allowable height would be 462. In the AG 10 general agricultural zoning, in location is a parcel of land lying east of 17th Drive, being part of the west 1/2 of the northeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, section 14, town 19 north, range 10 east, town of Watoma. The street address is N3830 17th Drive. Is an application, presenter going to talk to us?
Dave Peterson from the Sheriff's Department. Also, I'd like to remind you that I'm representing all emergency services. This tower site is probably the key tower site, and its location is critical to the proper functioning of the entire system. I don't know when your regulations for the 1.1 setback went into effect, but I have a letter from an engineering firm dated January 14th, 2011. The tower that we're looking at constructing will be able to withstand a basic wind speed of 90 miles an hour with no ice, or 40 miles an hour with 3/4 inch ice. In addition to that, there's some other safety factors that are built into towers. I think the construction of towers probably is changing as fast as technology. And one of the things that is key in this is that, first of all, it's highly unlikely that the tower will fail structurally in a wind event. Now, highly unlikely does not mean 100% certain. However, what would happen if it failed, as long as there were 2 anchors in each direction, and this tower will have 7 anchors in each direction, a collapse of the tower would mean that it should collapse more straight down, or not to exceed 65% of the tower height, which, correct me, Mr. Gallerup, if my math is wrong, that would be 273-foot radius,
That's right.
which would be within the county's property where they own the property, with the exception to the east, which is on Kajabuski's property. And I think that's important because Kajabuski has, although he would not give us an easement because of whatever his reasons were, when I talked to him, his concern was, is it going to ruin my deer hunting? So he doesn't live there. There's not a house there. In fact, I told him that because we're going to clear a little driveway and some little brush there, that he might be able to hit something for a change. So the 273 feet will go a little bit onto his property. More importantly than that is the people who live to the north of this property, where there is a house. Although the house itself is is outside of that 1.1 setback, the entire property to the north is outside, is farther than 273 feet away. So that's the way this tower is going to be constructed. We have moved the tower as far to the south and to the east as possible without infringing upon the solid waste site. Hardship that we came up with was, this is the prime location for our entire county emergency communication systems. All other towers, the other 5 towers, will all have to come back to that tower, and vice versa. This tower will have to get out to all these other towers. Therefore, we're kind of limited on just how far we can move from this location. And this is part of the reasoning for this is the FCC mandate that we go to narrow banding. The current charter tower that we're on, we would like to stay there because it probably wouldn't cost us in the short term as much money, but we cannot stay there. The towers that are in that general area, the other 2 towers that are in that area, don't meet our needs. The unique part of this property is that it is already owned by the county, and it's not being used for anything. This particular part of that is not being used for anything else, and the part of this property that is being used is used for that solid waste site. We've placed the tower in such a way to minimize any setback possibilities. The proposed site has been approved by the state of Wisconsin, and to a point of where they are willing to financially support it. And their system that they're putting on there will be another emergency service type radio frequency. Many emergency situations in Waushara County depend on volunteers. We're back to the firemen. This tower gives us good coverage to the north where Wild Rose Fire Department is located, and to the south where the Watoma Fire Department is located, and it really suits our needs of any site that we've looked at. And I think that's all I have.
I have some simple questions for the record. Has there been a recent survey out there?
Yes,
You sure of the lot lines?
yes.
Have you talked to the neighbors about the township about this project?
Talked to the township. I talked to Mr. and Mrs. Kajabuski, Wayne and Cheryl Reilly. The other landowner is Muriel Barr, who no longer lives there and has some health issues. Her daughter lives there. I tried a couple times to make contact with her daughter because it's my understanding that her daughter and her son own the property, and mom has a life lease there. I was unable to make connections with the daughter, but I did talk to the son.
Know what the finished height of the antenna is gonna be?
The very top of the highest one will be 420 feet.
Will there be any other improvements? You wanna talk about the sheds, how big they are and
There'll be 2 shelters or sheds that'll be there. They'll be 11 foot 3 inches by 24 inches, 24 feet, I'm sorry. One for us, one for the state of Wisconsin. There'll be a generator and an LP tank. The entire compound will be fenced, with the exception of the guide wires, and they'll just be fenced separately around the anchors. There'll be a new driveway I'll put in, and I believe that we're going to need a new fire number there because the existing fire number would be for the driveway for the solid waste site.
describe the fencing while you're at it.
I was afraid you'd ask me that. Now they got this bigger map, huh? The fence is going to be 75 foot square, and it is going to be 10 feet? The fence, how high is the fence going to be? What is it? 10 feet with 2 barbed wires on top of that. And the nice part about cohabitating with bug tussle, there's the possibility in this case where utilizing some of their technology, we might be able to keep a little better eye on the solid waste transfer site, maybe protect our investment over there also.
Will all other setbacks be met?
Yes,
And have you considered other options for this site?
yes, we have.
Does the public road meet the required setback of 1.5 times the height of the tower?
Yes.
Talk to the neighboring landowners about this?
I talked to the landowners that were within that setback. I did not talk to landowners outside of that setback, with the exception of the gentleman that I called in Cedarburg, who's outside the setback.
What are the hardships that make this property unique and why you need it so bad?
Well, I think the hardship is, once again, we're limited to where we can go, east, west, north, south, and we need the height. We realize that you know, it's has homes there, but there's most every property in that stretch that stretch of property between there and Double M, we would have the same issues with homes.
You know what all the permits you're required for this project?
No, I do not, but I'll rely on the zoning office and the engineer consultant.
If an approval was granted, how soon would this tower be constructed?
We wanted originally to have the entire project up and running, flip the switch, if you will, on the whole system by November 1st. That got pushed back to December 1st. Motorola is having some upgrades in their equipment, which is going to push us completion date back to probably the end of the first quarter of 2012. I would anticipate that we would start building the towers, however, as soon as the weather would permit. And in this particular place, we're going to have some of the brush cut also, which we can get at before the snow goes away.
Any other questions from the committee? Larry?
It's my understanding that more than 2 towers have to be constructed for this, to have this complete project. Is that right?
More than the 2 we are?
Yes.
Yes.
And I guess I'm wondering why this wasn't all taken care of all at one time.
Because we're not building the other towers.
Well, they're still conditional as part of the project, right?
Well, that goes back to the cohabitation that we have with Bug Tussle. Bug Tussle has agreed to either they have a tower now, they are on a second tower, which they don't like the rental agreement they have there. So they're looking to build possibly another tower in the Poisippi. The one tower they have is in Saxville. They're looking to build another tower in Poisippi, and they're looking at trying to build something or get on something between 21 and Z and to the southeast, kind of off towards the Laurelville area. And so this whole project, if you will, stems on all those towers getting done, but we only can control the 3 towers, the one we already have and these 2 towers. Our cohabitation agreement with Bug Tussle will be that they'll be permitted to go on our towers, we'll be permitted to go on theirs. We have to meet their requirements for location, they have to meet our requirements for location, and before it will all work. As far as the other towers, we don't have any, they're building those.
So it seemed to me it would have been better if we had taken the whole project on at one time.
Well, we need to keep in mind that this is a variance, though, and this is just where this tower is located on this property. That's probably something that's better addressed by the Planning and Zoning Committee and the placement of all the towers. But this board is looking at where this tower is placed on this property. I understand your concern. The other tower that they're proposing does require a variance. That's correct. But, we need to try to keep our mind focused on this tower on this property and where it's located. And I had one question. Are there any structures within the setback area? I'm under the impression there are no homes, that the home to the north is outside of that 1.1 times the height. Are there any structures?
Not that show up on the map. I guess I'd have to ask people back here can probably explain that.
And maybe they'll mention that when
Yeah.
they testify.
And I've been to their back door, but I guess I can't remember if there's the unattached garage is to the north of the house, so that wouldn't be in the setback. I don't know if there's anything to the east behind the house. There is nothing visible from the road to the south.
Okay.
Any written communication?
Yeah, we have all the letters that we had from the conditional use. Do you want me to reread them, or? Everybody was here, so I think they all heard the letters. There was the one from the township, the one from Reby Spring, the one to Ruth from Jeff Kasaboski, and the one from Mr. Elward. So if I don't have to read them, that would be great.
Anybody registered to speak in favor?
Yes, we have 2 people registered to speak for information only. The first is Kristen Piles. Just a second. It's Pyles.
Yes.
Yep. Kristen, Kristin.
And I own and occupy the home with my brother. And I just had some questions, actually. There really is no structure. There's a driveway there and a propane tank, right on the property, or just off the property line. Questions I did have was, are they going to strip the trees? Is the whole land going to have to be cleared? No?
If you ask your questions, hopefully they'll take notes, and then they would have a chance to do that in the rebuttal. It's very hard to get it on tape if you're turning around talking to them.
Sorry,
so
I'm just
that's okay.
Public speaking, anyway. So, truthfully, that was the only question that I can think of, unless my sister-in-law has some more.
And our other person to speak was Kay Sarnan Barr.
Yes.
Hello. My husband, Dennis Barr, did speak to Dave Peterson, and I think he was, I think as a whole, we support the improvement with communication, so I don't think we have an issue with that. Some of our issue comes in, I guess I was concerned about the clear cutting of the trees and how much of that was going to happen. I don't think there's, I'm comforted to hear that the tower is self-collapsing and that it won't fall on the house. That wasn't clear at first. I thought that's why we were doing the easement, so if it fell on the house, that would, we couldn't sue you guys. So, okay. But the other thing, quite honestly, is the fact that everyone is saying that the land value is going to go down, and, you know, because of this tower. And that does concern all of us, I think, that, you know, I guess my in-laws, when the collection site was put in, were very opposed to it, and I guess Dave Peterson was on the bandwagon at that time as being very opposed, which they felt brought their land value down then, and now we have this. But the moral of the story might be don't buy land next to a county-owned property. But anyway, I guess those are my comments.
Anybody else in favor?
Nope, we have no one else registered to speak in favor or in opposition.
Staff comments?
Again, I'd like to remind you that the board has visited the property. They received everything in the packet except the larger maps, which we got today. They've looked it over. This is, again, looking at where it's placed on the property. There was a question about when this setback was adopted. There was not this setback prior to March of 2008, and we have had very few applications since then. We are finding that we're having trouble with towers meeting this setback, so it's one of those things that we're going to have to look at. And I think some of the interesting testimony tonight is that if it collapses, it can't go more than half the height. And that was something I didn't know. So, you know, 1.1 seems like a fairly large setback if it self-collapses. It seems like it's much more conducive to the tower that might just tip over. And to tell you again, you know, the diagram that shows the 1.1 times the height, the house is outside of that setback. So when the board visited the property, they did note the site was wooded, and it's to the north of the current collection site. There were no homes within that setback area, and the tower will be of guide construction, and it is meant to collapse on itself if it should fail. And that would be it for my comments.
Dan, you got any rebuttal?
Kay is absolutely correct. I fought the county tooth and nail on that collection site. And if you would like me to rehash the reasons, I will be more than happy to do that. And there's many days that I'm still unhappy that it's there, but I've gotten over that, okay? I think that at that time we did make some gains, though, because the county agreed to do a few things for us in the town of Wautoma in exchange for me taking my complaints and going home, I guess, whatever. The county currently maintains that road from Highway 22 up to Bighorn as far as snow plowing, sanding. That was one thing that we gained when we went through that process. The part that still upsets me, which is why I can support the tower and not the waste transfer site, is I'm getting sick and tired of picking up the garbage that people don't take to the dump, or it flies off their truck, or they get there and it's closed, and so they dump it on, I'm sure, on her land, because just beyond their house there's a nice little ravine, you know, you can just kind of toss it off there. They went down and I left my gate open on my property, and they drove far enough in off the road so that I couldn't see it from the road. But I do know it happened on July 4th weekend of a year ago, and I know where those people live. But anyway, those are situations that will not reoccur or get any worse because of this tower. There will be minimal amount of traffic out there. We still got way too much traffic on Wednesday and Saturday and Sunday, but you guys helped out with the Sunday thing because it's going to be closed. However, now I will be alert on Sundays. We'll be watching. So And I did struggle this, because I do live in that community, and I live in Waushara County, and I own land. And I understand, I tried to put myself in their shoes, if you will, whether it was these people who lived next door to me or people who lived over in Plainfield. If the county wanted to build it closer in my back door than they already are, what would my feeling be about it? And to be honest with you, I still have mixed emotions about it. But you have to weigh, I guess, the need for public safety, which I benefit from because my wife went to the hospital. And maybe next time I'm not driving by when she gets stuck and she can call me. I'll come get her and help her push her out of her driveway. That was quite a few years ago. So I think was I opposed to that? Absolutely. But I don't think this is a different situation. I mean, we had talked about groundwater concerns at that time. There's going to be no groundwater concerns from this. The other neighbor brought up, I think he was talking stray voltage. I've been reassured there's not going to be a stray voltage problem. I don't want to have problems with my television reception. I'm still old-fashioned. I got an antenna up on my roof. I don't have cable, and I have a dish. I do like to watch TV once in a while. So I have those concerns. And weighing the pros and the cons, I guess I decided that I would be the face of this project, even though there was things about it that were just a tad bit I had to think about. So.
I wanted to know about the tree removal.
Oh yeah, the tree removal, and I can show them the diagram on that, and you don't have the nice diagram, but I can share that with you. Basically, we will be clearing trees out from, I think, about where that yellow sign is that's all faded and you can't see the TC intersection, needs to go anyway. Clearing out enough trees back to the base of the tower, and then we'll have to clear out 3 areas where the guide wires will go down. So from the air, it'll look like three triangles with a road going into it. So we don't want to remove as many more trees than we have to, because we want to be good neighbors and we don't want to be an eyesore, and I think the trees are beneficial. But we have to remove a few to get in there and construct this. And if you guys, I can share that again. We got a smaller one of this, but that kind of shows. And the county will probably burn those in their wood burner. The county shop.
I guess we did enough on that tower, huh?
Yeah, unless you have anything more, Dave. Okay.
Variance number 3, Waushara County Sheriff's Department, Watoma, Wisconsin. Thomas Hagelin, landowner, has made application for a variance in accordance with section 58-236, paren B, paren 20, paren E of the Waushara County zoning code to place a 270-foot self-supporting wireless communication tower, existing 202-foot guide tower to be removed, coming within 126 feet of the northerly and 145 feet from the easterly, 174 feet from the southerly, and 156 of the westerly sod line. Required setbacks no less than 1.1 times the total height of the tower. That 101 times would be 297 feet would be the upper limit. In an general agricultural zone within the shoreline area, the location of approximately a 2.066 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 2131, being part of the southwest one quarter to northwest one quarter, section 25, town 20 north, range 8 east, town of Plainfield, 6th Avenue. no fire number. Applicant want to start?
Yeah, I guess this site was selected because we knew it worked. There was already a tower there. We originally were in hopes that we could either just make do with the existing height, or we could add something to that height to make it work. That wasn't possible. Again, the FCC requirements are going to severely negatively impact our emergency services abilities. We didn't want to add another tower, to the landscape if we didn't have to. In Watoma, we wanted to cohabitate where we were at. In this case, there's not a tower there that we can use, but there is a tower we believe that we can come to agreement with the current owner. And although the tower will be taller, it will not have any guide wires, and it will not be an additional tower, if you will. We're going to put one up and take one down. We currently are severely handicapped even for police communications over there inside of buildings, in particular the fire hall and community center in Hancock, and the school in Plainfield. They have a lot of functions in that Hancock Community Center, and we have special deputies operating there with a handheld radio, and they have to go outside even to get out on their handheld radios. So again, the location is key here, both distance, east, north, south, west, as well as height. The neighboring property owners there, in particular the one that is the closest, actually built his home after that tower was up. So he already is used to a tower in his, I don't know if it's front yard or backyard. And I think that we probably would be able to come to some agreement with him at some point in time, because it appears that his garage is on this property, and if we build a tower there, we don't want his garage on our property. So I think we can come to some agreement that he can move his garage, or maybe we'll sell him a little property. We have a cohabitation agreement just about finalized with Mr. Hedgeland in exchange for us owning the property, and we are very close to getting a cohabitation agreement with Bug Tussle. There will be some space on this tower, and it is close to the I-39 corridor, so maybe there will be an opportunity to recoup some of those funds. So I guess I would request that you grant us the variance.
Some simple questions again. Has the property been recently surveyed?
Yes,
Sure the lot lines?
yes.
Have you talked with the neighbors in the township about this project?
The township has agreed to grant us the easement on their road. The property owner to the north and to the south has agreed to grant us an easement. The property owner directly to the east has not. And the Burns and Sons own the property across the road, and they said they would give us a license to go on their property to retrieve anything, but they would not grant us an easement.
What will the finished height be?
Finished height of this one will be 270 feet, I believe. 270 feet.
Are there other improvements planned?
Well, there'll be a 50-foot square fence around the entire compound, including the shelter and the generator and the propane tank, similar to the fence that is built around the other one. Also, there'll have to be a driveway, a suitable driveway constructed, and proper fire number put up. I believe there's a culvert required there also.
Will all other setbacks be met?
Yes,
Have you considered other options?
yes,
Are there any structures within the required 1.2 times the height setback area?
yes,
Does a public road meet the required setback?
no,
I guess that's in relationship to the tower.
the public road does not meet the required setback. The town has granted us said they would grant us an easement on the road.
You've talked about to the other neighbors about setbacks?
Right, the only one I didn't talk to was people out in Montana.
What are the hardships unique to this property requiring a variance?
Well, I guess it's the setbacks.
It's just too small.
And it's not practical to buy more land, just,
Well, actually, when I went up to visit Burns and Sons, they were of the mistaken belief that I was coming up there to purchase property from them. They asked me when I walked into their office if I had brought $3 million with me. I told them, one, I wasn't interested in buying any of their property, and two, I didn't have $3 million. I think over on that end of the county, what we're running into is height, and then if a location that's large enough, because most of the vacant property over there is where the pivot doesn't hit. And actually, directly across the road from this is wooded. It is where the pivot's not hitting. Now, when they devise a pivot that will make square corners, Burns and Son will probably clear that off and plant corn and potatoes in there too. But currently, right across the road is woods.
do you know what other permits you will need?
No, I do not. But we will get them from zoning and our engineering company, because we'll have to meet federal requirements also.
If we grant an approval, when would you start construction on this tower site?
This one would probably be very similar, probably would start in April or May. There's a minimal amount of landscaping that needs to be done there. There's not a lot of trees or anything. We can get on the property, I guess the same way they've been doing it, driving through the ditch if we had to, but we'd like to get a driveway in there first, and that's always better when the ground's a little more settled, so. We're still working on RFPs for letting it out for bids, so it'll be a while.
Any other questions? Any communications?
Yes, we have letters, but again, they're the same ones that we received and read into the record on the conditional use permit. So
Give us a name.
it was the same letter signed by Dennis Grundman, Grundman, of the Dennis Grundman Trust, and William and Mary Jo Patterson. And then also the one from Reby Spraying Service, discussing the self-supporting tower rather than the guide tower at this location.
Any applicants to speak in
No one
favor?
registered to speak in favor or in opposition.
Anything from
Sure,
staff?
I'll say a few words again. One thing that I think is coming up, and I think everybody understands the variance part now, is that our code is written so it says that you need to be 1.1 times the height from a property line unless you get an easement from all the property owners. And in this case, they've gotten agreements from some of the property owners, but they can't get all of them. So that's the reason that they're going through the variance. You know, they couldn't get all the property owners to agree to give them an easement. So just so you're aware that if they had gotten an easement from everyone, we wouldn't even be holding this hearing for this tower. When the board visited the property, they noted the old tower and equipment building will be removed, and the new tower and buildings will be placed in essentially the same location. All equipment and the tower base are proposed to be fenced. There is a home to the east that was constructed after the first tower was placed, and the area is relatively remote and lightly populated on a dead-end road. The tower is non-guide and of self-supporting construction, and again, the tower is designed to collapse upon itself should it experience any failure. And that's all the comments I have.
Any rebuttal? Loose ends?
Tried my math skills again, and the 65% of the height of the tower, it would collapse without hitting any structures, i.e. the garage and the house directly to the east.
Yep, that's our last public hearing
Okay,
application.
we'll adjourn the public hearing and move on to our business meeting. Anybody interested in the results may stay and listen to our deliberations. Need a motion for the agenda.
I'll move that.